Hello, I'm Seth Clevenger, Managing Editor of Features and Multimedia at Transport Topics. Thank you for tuning in to the latest Transport Topics Brown Bag webinar, Elevating Customer Service in the Supply Chain. Today, we invite you to lunch and learn as we discuss opportunities to enhance customer service in the transportation and logistics industry with the help of Donna Kintop, Senior Vice President of Client Experience at DDC FPO, our program sponsor. Welcome, Donna.
Hi, Seth. Good morning. Nice to meet you.
So, Donna, just to help set the stage for this conversation, could you please tell our viewers a little bit about your experience in the transportation industry and the work you're doing at DDC FPO?
Sure, that'd be my pleasure. I've been with DDC FPO now, part of the DDC group, for just about 5 years. I've been in the outsourcing or BPO business now in excess of 10 years, and within the logistics industry in excess of 20 years. So I started my career on the buy side. Enjoyed that tremendously, moved on to oversee and run the day-to-day operations of a privately held freight forwarding company here in North America, and then found it really exciting to move into the BPO space. So my focus has been for the last 10 plus years here working in BPO, primarily focused on logistics and freight. DDC FPO, we have been a BPO provider here within North America for over 20 years. And our focus is primarily on the freight and logistics industry with front and back office processes for LTL, full truckload, and 3PL businesses.
All right, well, that's very helpful. And, I've been covering the transportation industry for 13 years myself. And, just in that time frame is amazing how much things have changed and how fast the industry is moving. And I'm sure in your time and, your experience and a time frame, a bit, wider than my own, but you've certainly seen a lot, right? I mean, I imagine the amount of change you've seen in the industry has been pretty significant over the years.
It's been quite exciting. The introduction of a lot of new technology. We managed to get through the 2008, 2009. We managed to get through COVID. So the industry is one that's really very, it goes with the flow.
Yeah.
It has to adapt. It has to really bend and curve as needed based on the world economy and based on what's going on here in North America. And so, this industry is just very flexible, and I thoroughly enjoyed that about it.
Yeah, certainly a resilient industry, has been through a lot, and it's an industry that the whole world, the whole economy counts on. So it's exciting to be a part of it. And sort of a jumping off point for this conversation is a white paper that DDC FPO recently published on customer service trends in the supply chain. Really fascinating bit of research there. The findings were based on a survey of more than 200 business leaders at carriers, 3PLs, and shippers. One of the main takeaways is that customer service is a clear opportunity for businesses to differentiate themselves in the marketplace and gain a competitive advantage. So let's start there. How do you see, customer service, as an opportunity, not just again to serve your customers, but to really give a transportation company an edge over their competitors?
So, for those that have been in the industry for quite some time, many views are that this is a commodity industry. If you're in the LTL business, you can move carriers fairly easily. You can move from one broker to another. You can utilize multiple 3PLs, when in fact, it's really not a commodity business. The better you are at personalizing that service and customizing your process to your customers, the better success you'll have. So what we've done over the last couple of years is repeated a survey with the same population just to see how the trends are moving forward, what's changing within everyone's world on a day-to-day basis. And so we have some underlying themes that we have seen year to year. Some new things have popped up this coming year. But what we have found in the customer service area is that the importance of personalizing, customizing your delivery to your clients has become much more critically important. We found that 68% of our respondents can directly tie back their return on investment to their investment within their customer service programs. So the more they invest, the more they're getting back. we've been able to validate this through our processes as well. What we see is that if you personalize your program, if you treat your clients like every interaction is the most important one, if you really go above and beyond, then you're reducing your sales churn. It's
Yeah.
obvious in the numbers and in the data. You're not having to replace those customers, and you're increasing your revenue and your volumes that you're moving. So we really find that those that focus on customer service really do benefit from that effort.
Yeah. I mean, the more customers you retain, the less you have to go out and find new ones, and makes a huge
Absolutely.
difference. And
Mhm.
that kind of brings me to my next question. What are the most common gaps in customer service that the transportation industry is seeing right now, and sort of the weak links in the chain, so to speak, and what do you think companies can do to fill in those gaps?
So the things that we've seen over the last few years have really not changed very much. There has been a significant staffing issue that companies have encountered. We're not really seeing a light at the end of the tunnel for
Yeah.
that. It's difficult to find resources. It's difficult to retain those resources. It's difficult to obtain those types of people that you want to add to your organization at a reasonable cost. There are certain customer expectations that have significantly changed over the last few years. Everyone talks about the Amazon effect. People want things, they want things immediately, they want a quick turnaround. They don't understand that sometimes it takes a few days to move from a piece of equipment or pallet from Boston to California. So it's managing those expectations. Um, it's difficulty in really maintaining costs within your organization and reducing those costs. So the introduction, can we stop for a moment?
Yeah, sure. No, we can always pick it up.
I'm so sorry.
And Donna, that brings me to my next question, and I'm curious to hear about some of the most common gaps in customer service that the transportation industry is seeing right now. You can think of it as the weak links in the chain of customer service. And from your perspective, how can companies fill in those gaps?
Okay. So some of the gaps that we've been able to see year after year, and we really don't see any change coming in the near future, we're making progress, but it's not significant progress, is the lack of technology. So we struggle with difficulty in hiring and retaining resources, the right resources at the right price. We struggle with the maintenance of customer expectations. Things have changed. People want things much more instantaneously. And so if we are able to implement more technology to improve self service options, to improve response times through email, through phone calls, through chat, that addition of technology into that workspace will definitely help fill some of those gaps, and the pain won't be as significant.
Okay, no, that's helpful, and I think that you already gave some examples of how companies are tracking their performance, and which is very interesting because if you want to improve customer service, you need to be able to measure how you're currently performing. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
Donna, what have you found to be the most useful KPIs, key performance indicators that companies are using to track and monitor their performance in this area?
Every company is a little bit different in what they find as a priority. What we find overall to be the three main areas that they should focus on is certainly your CSAT scores, whether you do CSAT surveys with your customer periodically, annually, quarterly, on a transactional basis, or your NPS surveys. You have to listen to the customers, you have to look at the feedback that they're giving you, and then target those areas for improvement. So, implementing some sort of feedback program with your clients is really critical to get fair and honest feedback. The next one that we see has to do with evaluating your agents. So, those agents that work within your customer service area, look for best practices, look for top performers, who's doing the very best job and getting the best scores or best results out of those client interactions. That one's really, really important. And then all comes down to the client experience and retention. So, are you evaluating the retention of your clients? Are you turning over your clients? Is there a lot of high churn? Client retention is just so critical to maintaining your costs and building your reputation. If you have to go out and search for a new client, those costs are sometimes 5 to 25 times more expensive than what it might cost to put some effort into retaining those existing clients. So we ask that, when we're talking to people, what are the KPIs you look at? And we discuss these top three things. Now, there's other KPIs that people do look at in the way of contact center work. What's your average speed of answer? What's your
Sure.
average handle time? What's your first call resolution? Those are equally as important, but every organization is different. For some organizations, we find an average speed of answer might be okay at 5 or 10 seconds, where other clients say, 30 seconds is okay, because we do have a lot of self-serve options. We want to direct our customers in that way. Average handle time. Do you want that agent to rush through a call to make sure that average handle time stays within a certain number? Or do you want to make sure that they're pushing for first call resolution? So some of the KPIs that we work with, we encourage customers to look at from a strategic perspective and then look at others from a tactical perspective.
Yeah, that was great. And it all starts with, again, monitoring and capturing the data and then really evaluating, how you're performing. And that's how you improve from a business management standpoint. Another topic I wanted to bring up here is that, while reviewing the white paper, I found it interesting that email is still definitely the preferred channel for
Yeah.
customer service by a pretty wide margin. That's followed by phone calls, live chat and social media. I think it's interesting to see those as well increasingly. So Donna, from what you've seen, how have the methods of communication for customer service shifted over time? And how do you see that changing in the years ahead as you kind of spin it forward?
There's been a really slow and steady progression. Obviously, early customer service programs were all
Yeah,
voice and voicemail. People have moved away from that now due to timing.
yeah,
And we find that customers are much more comfortable interacting through email. It's at their convenience. They can read and write, when it's workable within their schedule. If you set a certain SLA for the response time, you get back to any customer with a critical issue within an hour. Anything that might require a little bit more research, you set that time frame a little bit differently. But email has, for the last few years, been the proven channel of
yeah,
choice for many, many customers. Chat is rising quickly. You know, it, it's much more instantaneous, and you can get those answers quickly. It really just depends on where the customer is comfortable communicating and how they wish to communicate. And so, having the ability for those customers to utilize a variety of channels really does help quite a bit um, in making sure that they're comfortable to get the answers they want based on the issue that they want when they want.
yeah,
And so, in the future, what we tend to see is when we talk to our customers, they're really focused on improving more self serve options so that their clients can go on. For example, they want to track a shipment. They can go on themselves and find out exactly where that shipment is, what the expected delivery date is, if there's a holdup. So, certain types of interactions really do promote other channels, and we'll have to see how that goes. But the industry, in the last few years has really grown quickly in the technology options, and I think we're going to continue to see that rapidly increase both in back office and front
yeah.
office.
I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. I usually love the live chat options when those are available when I'm dealing with any sort of customer service call or inquiry or question, um,
Yeah,
rather than being on
I have
hold. But
it
it's
de-
generational
it
as well, I think,
depends.
right?
Yeah, I think it is generational, and I really do think it depends on the
Yeah,
situation. So, if you have a little bit more time, okay. If you don't,
yeah,
you choose the option that's best
yeah,
for you. But it really does, it's wise for our clients and those within the industry to make sure that they have viable options open and that depending upon which channel they would like their customers to communicate, that they set their
yeah.
expectations.
Absolutely, and meet the customers where they are and all those different preferences out there. Uh,
I love
yeah,
that saying. I really do love that saying because it's so important. It's not really what we think they want, it's what they want. And you have to listen carefully.
yep. We've been discussing technology as kind of a thread of this whole conversation, but DDC FPO, of course, the provider of business process outsourcing services and technology. So I'd like to take a moment here to just ask how outsourcing can play into a company's overall customer service strategy. What types of customer service functions do you find tend to be a good fit for outsourcing?
That's a great question, Seth. So, again, it depends on the company. When we approach a company and we go through a discovery conversation or a discovery phase with them, we find out where their challenges are. Where are they having difficulty staffing? Where is it costly to staff? Where do they need some elasticity based on peak season, seasonality, natural disasters, anything that might come along? And so we talk to them about what's most critical to you. Where do you want to see improvement quickly? What can we do to help? And so there are a variety of processes that we can absorb relatively quickly and can be very adaptable based on the highs and the lows in their business. So it's a blend of both back and front office processes as well as technology solutions. So under the customer service umbrella, we see that most of our clients and prospects reach out because they're struggling to find agents that can adequately staff their customer service lines, either for
Right.
normal daytime shifts or extended evening shifts, weekend shifts, holidays. So any type of customer service type of inquiries, a pickup order, a track and trace. I have a question on my invoice, anything along that. Anything that is repetitive. If a customer constantly wants to call up and we get many calls that say, I've got these 10 pro numbers. Can you tell me where they all are? So, we work with them and provide whatever information they might need. On the back office side, if customers need some assistance in billing, we had an instance last summer where the whole industry in LTL kind of flipped upside down and people needed to move and change very rapidly. Utilizing our services, we were able to adapt our teams and help absorb some of that additional business. And whether it was on the billing side, whether it was on the customer service side, whether it was on claims processing or dispatching, working in a communication lane with their drivers, we were able to really step in and assist with a lot of those changes in a quick way. So it really just depends on what the client is looking for and where they're struggling, where they'd like to see some growth. We have the opportunity to either supplement an existing team
Mhm.
or we can completely replace a team and allow those incumbent workers, teammates to move on to more complex
Yeah.
type of work. So it really does depend on the structure and the desire and the goals of the client that we work with.
Yeah, those are all great examples, and I think that that opportunity to maybe take some of the customer service responsibilities off the plate of some of your back office workers, so they can be freed up for maybe some other more hands-on or high value type
Absolutely.
of tasks. Is a can really unlock a lot of opportunities for transportation companies. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, and we can't forget, BPO business came about due to labor arbitrage. The cost savings are
sure.
significant. The service has to be there. The cultural fit has to be there. The alignment to goals has to be there. But, in an industry like ours, in a time like ours, last year and this year with this suppressed freight market, cost containment is critical to a lot of companies. They're not seeing the volumes. They're not seeing the growth. They're having to look at everything internally. Where can we be more cost effective? Where can we realize process efficiencies? That's the business we're in. We evaluate every step, we evaluate every angle of a process and really look to improve that process. We don't ask the client to change their business systems, we don't ask them to change their processes unless we believe thoroughly that it's going to be a significant positive change for them and their customers.
Yeah.
So there's a number of areas that they can evaluate and look at and have a conversation about.
Yeah, well, that's great. And to your point on the sort of cost containment, and it's an industry that operates on such thin margins, and pennies saved can really add up in our industry. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the technology side of the conversation.
Mhm.
That's been one of those big trends, and is playing an increasingly important role in this field of customer service. So maybe just give me a little bit more, in terms of examples of how technology investments can start to streamline and improve customer service processes in the transportation industry. How are you, you know,
Sure.
harnessing technology with what you do?
Well, absolutely. So many of our customers are working with us on um, basic processes. So we evaluate a process. Where can we automate it? What kind of knowledge base can we build if they don't have one? That will help our agents answer the calls more quickly, more efficiently, provide more accurate information. That ties over to self-help. What can our customers do to make sure that that knowledge is available to their customers as well? So through a variety of ways, we gather information, we provide them with feedback. um, it helps in so many different ways to make sure that you know their budget, when they're setting their budget for the beginning of the year, if you're going to invest in some technology, you can then plan out what that cost is going to be. You can balance that against the cost savings for, say, expanding your customer service department during a peak season. Your costs are consistent and you can count on those. um, Ease of use, the generational topic that we just touched on a little bit earlier. A lot of folks nowadays don't want to talk to a live person. They want to use a piece of technology or a system
Yeah,
that really is simple to them on their handheld, and they can look up information and get it instantaneously and take action and make some decisions based on that. So technology is playing a much more significant role in the marketplace that we work within. Another example, come peak season, everybody knows from September to December, everybody's running full out at 100 miles an hour. So how do you adapt to that? We certainly can offer some options with, staffing that expands and contracts
mhm.
based on a lot of those trends. But technology can handle that bandwidth, and it's not at any additional cost. So what kinds of systems can our customers, anyone within this industry, look within to implement to make sure that there is a consistent and cost friendly option for their customers to
Yeah,
utilize?
no, all great examples. And speaking of examples, I think that in the trucking and logistics industry, I find that business leaders are always very interested in learning from their peers. Right? What's the
Yeah.
recognizable companies that they see, sometimes they compete with directly. What are they doing that's successful? So I'm curious if you have any case studies or examples of transportation
Sure.
companies that have really improved customer service operations in recent years, and if you have that, how were they able to really step up their performance?
Hmm. Oh, I'm happy to share. So, we hold our client names in high confidence. So,
For sure.
unfortunately, I cannot share a client name with you, but I can tell you that they are a large provider of LTL brokerage and parcel service here in North America and in Europe. We've worked with them for a number of years. We started small with them. We started with their billing service, and we handle all of their billing now within their LTL and parcel service. And then we expanded into the customer service arena. And so now we have omni-channel support for their customers that we provide both during business hours as well as off hours. So that helps reduce their staffing and their costing. We've now, in the last 2 years, moved into more of their back office. We handle a lot of their AR operations. So we're handling more and more of the roles that are part of your order to cash process. And so as people are leaving or they're expanding within their organization, those positions are being transferred to us. Additionally, we've been able to implement one of our technology solutions with them, DDC Sync, which is a handheld device with a proprietary application that captures a BOL image as the driver is on site. Having that ability to capture a clear image, send that back into the billing department. They then can invoice much sooner, and they have the opportunity to have the data to do 5 to 6 hours of advanced planning
Yeah.
for all of their night services. So it saves them significantly on what they have to do after hours internally within their warehousing and planning teams. So we started small with them. We've continued to grow. As their business grows and expands, they come to us and and we talk through a discovery about that certain process, they've been able to reduce their average speed of answer within customer service based on the efficiency of the processes that we have. They've been able to reduce their invoicing time based on the combination of utilizing DDC Sync in our billing service. So throughout their organization, their planning organization realized a number of efficiencies now, utilizing us as a partner. Collections, we do soft collections for them. So their DSO has reduced significantly. So we've provided quite a few benefits throughout this partnership, and we continue to grow with them, both in their North America entities as well as European.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's
You're
very
welcome.
good insights into the type of work you're doing with your customers, and totally understand and respect the need to protect their identity. But uh, I think that
We're very we're very proud of the relationships that we build. We are definitely in this for the long term. Um, there's no short term gain. We look for multi-year contracts, and we look to make sure that what we can provide will be beneficial. Otherwise, it's certainly not worth it.
yeah. Now the still a lot of paperwork in trucking, so I'm glad you brought up the bill of lading, imaging, capture capabilities. I think there's so much opportunity for more of that moving forward in the industry.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah. There's a great deal of advancement in that
yeah,
area. We're known as a premier provider for billing services. So, we're constantly looking at how we can improve that process, automate it using AI, using machine learning. The advances have been um, phenomenal over the last couple of
yeah,
years.
I'm sure much more to come on that as well, especially with AI coming in and starting to unlock some new capabilities. And one point that you brought up earlier that I'd really like to dive into a bit more is the this down cycle in the freight market, right? I mean, it's been a pretty rough
Mm,
2 years now in terms of
sure.
an oversupply of freight hauling capacity. It's been holding back rates, and then again, as you stated, when revenue is down, it's more important than ever to control costs and operate as efficiently as possible. So I'm curious if you're seeing an uptick in customers who are really just looking to coming to you looking to manage back office costs through business process outsourcing, through technology adoption, um, and even what they're doing in customer service. Is there just more of a focus on cost control these days?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, this industry has really been struggling for a few years between the rise in fuel costs and insurance and cybersecurity, all of the investments that have to be made there, resource constraints and finding the right people at the right cost, growing their revenue, growing their volume, the consolidation of the companies, and honestly, the extinction of
Yeah,
some companies has been really sad in this industry. So it's been a challenging time for everyone involved. We are finding people coming to us more and more often saying, look, I need help. What can you do to help us? We've got all of these additional expenses. We don't have the growth in revenue. We don't see an increase in volume. So the only place we have to look is inward at cost containment. And so, what can you do to help us with that? When you work with a BPO provider, we'll touch on that labor arbitrage point again. Certainly, there are significant savings. Costs here in the US, we did a very similar survey 2 years ago, and asked the question of all the respondents, if you had to identify for us what is the cost of a fully loaded FTE, say a customer service FTE, what would that look like with their compensation, with any type of bonuses, commissions, benefits, infrastructure costs, telephony costs, leadership and support? What would that actually look like? And it was upwards of $87,000. And we surveyed people from coast to coast. So we know there are certain geographic areas that are much more expensive. Um, if you work with a BPO provider, those costs are much more reasonable. So there are significant savings to be realized by partnering with someone that can um, do the job well, and you can manage those costs at a much more reasonable level. We can help out in a number of ways. um, in making sure that we have the staffing that you need when you need it. We invest in making sure that we provide reliever support and expansion for any type of special projects that you might have. Um, so we find that they're coming to us with a variety of needs based on where their organization is at this point in their lifespan and in this industry state.
Yeah, no, thank you for going through all that, and I think we've certainly covered a lot of ground in this conversation already. But just wanted to open it up, and if are there any other ways that carriers and logistics companies can provide better customer service beyond what we've already discussed?
I think we covered a lot of it. They really have to, I don't mean to sound this in a bossy or bullyish way, but really focusing on your customer's experience is
Yeah,
key. Holding on to customers, growing their wallet with you, making sure that they're satisfied so that they are not hopping from company to company. You want to build that loyalty with you, and any investment in customer experience to make sure that they're happy, making sure that every single call is a special call and they feel important, that their questions are answered, that their freight is not damaged. You have to make sure that, and if it happens, it happens in this industry. How are you managing that
yeah,
process? It's not so much in this industry how you handle things when they go well, but it's how you fix a problem when something goes wrong. And so having the adaptability and the authority and the responsibility to make sure that you can work with customers and really work toward their goal and make sure that they're satisfied with the service that you're providing will go a long way.
yeah. Things go wrong in transportation, right? I mean, it's just
They
inevitable. Like,
do.
it would be perfect. It'd be amazing if everything could just happen smoothly, and often it does. But I think you can really stand out. When things do go wrong, how well do we handle it? That can be that key touch point for really providing an extra level of customer service. And
Yeah, that's the key to success. We find that, in the customer service or customer experience world, there are certain brands that really stand out from other brands. Um, I like to use this example, Delta Airlines. You may or may not be a fan of Delta Airlines, but with every interaction you have with them on the phone, they ask you to stay on for a one question survey. And that one question survey is always, if you had an organization, a call center organization, would you hire the person that you just spoke with? And I think that's very telling about every aspect of their operation. How did that agent treat you? Were their processes efficient? Were their systems up to date? Did they have the answers? Were they empathetic? And so, I like to use that example to say, look, it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be a massive overhaul of what you're doing. Small steps and small changes make huge improvements. So it's not as if you're going to implement a whole new ERP system for millions and millions of dollars. You can do this incrementally. You can do it in very wise ways to make sure that your customer is more satisfied and sticks with you.
yeah. So I always like to end these interviews by looking ahead to the industry's future. So Donna, how do you envision customer service practices and communications evolving in the years and even decades ahead? If you had to look into the crystal ball for us.
Oh, it's definitely, I always think there will be a need for people because people want to talk to people. But there definitely is a lot of room for improvement in the technology that's out there. And we see every single day more and more technology being implemented with AI, with machine learning. It makes our jobs and it will make the customers' lives so much easier. As these systems develop and as they go through their smart learning process, answers are going to be more accurate, they're going to be more timely. So implementing those types of mechanisms within a customer service organization where you don't have to rely on speaking with a live person unless you'd like to, um, I think there's a lot of room for growth there, and we see that every single day. We have customers that we have conversations with on a consistent basis about what they're looking to implement and how that will improve their processes and how we can work within that system. So that I think is going to be one of the significant changes. I also see a lot of effort being put into soft skill training.
Mm,
So, this is a what have you done for me lately kind of world, and I want it now or yesterday is better. So, a lot of emphasis is going into training now in the soft skills arena, in empathy and sympathy, in how to respond in a polite and kind way, how to de escalate. And so, I think those training aspects as well will help improve experiences, whether you're emailing or whether you're speaking with someone live. I think that will help improve the quality of those transactions too.
Yeah. Well, I see we're short on time, Donna, but before we wrap up
Yeah.
here, just like to open it up to any final parting thoughts you'd like to share.
We've covered so much ground, Seth. Words of wisdom, and I've learned this from my customers and colleagues in the industry is really, look to your customer first.
Yeah.
If you can listen to them very carefully, your teams want to deliver the best quality service. Everyone shows up wanting to do a good job, wanting to give their efforts and make sure that the interactions are the best that they can be. So I would say start with listening to your customers, talk to the people that work on these teams that interact with your customers on a very regular basis. A lot of cases in our industry, a customer, the first interaction they might have with your company is talking to a customer service rep. What do you want that first impression to look like? That's critical. So focus on those areas. They help drive operational efficiencies. They can give insight into the entire organization. It's really a pivotal point and a critical point uh, in the engagement and in the relationships with their customers. So I would say start there.
Yeah.
We've seen a great deal of success when people look at it from that angle.
Well, hey, that's I think a great final point to leave us on, and I really appreciate the conversation here. A good conversation about an important topic for trucking and logistics companies. So, thank you once again, Donna, for joining the program and sharing your insights. We really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure, Seth. Thanks for making the time.